Hi, AutomationEdge server displays new, execution started, complete, failure, and diverted states of a workflow. However, for long-running workflows, the users may be interested in the workflow intermediate status or even manual intervention. This video will showcase how to set intermediate status and manual intervention. Manual intervention in a workflow can be simply for acknowledgement or to provide certain inputs. Let us begin. I am in Process Studio. I have created a project Large Excel Data Processing. I will use a pre-built Large Excel Data Salary Processing workflow to which I will add intermediate status and manual intervention steps. I have saved a salary processing workflow as Large Excel Data Processing as it will process a large number of records and suitable to add intermediate status step. Let me walk you through the workflow. It has 3 Excel input files. Let us view the file contents. The first file has employee name, ID, and designation. Notice it has 258,000 employees. The second file has employee attendance information. And the third file has employee basic salary and allowances. Let us go back to Process Studio. In the workflow, next we have a merge data step that merges the data from all the 3 files. We can look at the configuration. It does a full outer join on the 3 files and the join key of each file is the emp ID. Next, it has a calculator step and it performs several calculations on the 258,000 records. So overall, it performs more than 2.8 million calculations. And finally, it has an Excel output step to store the calculated salary details. To this workflow, let us add the intermediate and manual intervention steps. Drag and drop an intermediate status step after the calculator step. Let us configure the step. You can provide a step name. The status field is a free text box where a user can set the status or message like percentage of completion or any other user-defined status or select from the field. In our case, we will select the total salary field for display as status. In the total row count, choose from the drop-down list Implicit Row Count, where Process Studio will calculate number of rows processed. The row count is maintained internally. Or Explicit Row Count, where the row count can be explicitly provided by the user. Let us select Implicit Row Count. Provide a numeric value for the total row count, that is total number of rows processed. It is only enabled when explicit row count is selected above. In the successful row count, provide a numeric value or select a field with a numeric value. Now, since emp ID is a count from 1 onwards, let us select emp ID as the successful row count. Now, in the options, choose from the drop-down list. Send for all rows will send status to AutomationEdge for each row. The step would be executed for each row processed. Send for last row will send a status only for the last row. Or send for batch, where the step would be executed after the specified batch size. Since we have a large data, 258,000 records, let us send for batch and specify a batch size, after which the step would be executed. So let me enter 50,000 rows. Click OK. Let us add the manual intervention step after the intermediate status. Let us configure the step. The step can be used in a workflow to enable manual intervention for users to complete some tasks or provide input values for a new field or existing field. A pop-up is displayed and the workflow pauses until the OK or Cancel button is pressed. Specify a display message to appear on the manual intervention pop-up. You can leave it to the default or provide a custom display message or even select from the field. For process this step, select from the drop-down list to process for each row, first row or last row. Since we have a large data set, for the video purposes, I will only process this for the last row. Provide a tabular list of fields to add to the workflow stream. They can be display only or input fields. Provide all the details in the table. Let us add a field, payroll status. We will set it to display only false so that it appears as an input field. Provide a default value, payroll completed. Provide a field name that will be created and available in the workflow stream. I will provide it the same as the display name. You can also provide a tooltip description. I will add the type as string and specify an output field name to hold the user action that is OK or cancelled during step execution. The default value is status. In the field name, there should be no spaces, so let me correct it to payroll status. Click OK. The workflow is complete. Let us execute it. Notice the step metrics. Process Studio processes the steps parallelly and the rows in batches. We now have a pop-up coming up from the manual intervention step with a default value for the field. Let us click OK. We did not notice the results of the intermediate status step. It will be visible when you run the workflow from the AutomationEdge catalog. The workflow is complete. Let us publish this workflow to the AutomationEdge server. Right-click the project, edit project, select the main workflow or process. We only have one workflow. Click OK. Now on the project, right-click and publish, create. Let us connect to the server. So the project, large Excel data processing, selected for publish. Do you want to add the resources files? Yes. So let us add the input files to be bundled while publishing. Click add, large Excel data processing. So let us provide a description. So we've provided a description. We'll publish it to the default category. Click create. So the workflow is created successfully. Let us click OK and check it on AutomationEdge. We are in AutomationEdge. In the workflow list, we can see the large Excel data processing workflow. Let us edit it. Let us provide the required fields. Expected completion time 20 seconds. Maximum completion time 30 seconds. Provide the other values and click save. Now you can activate the workflow. Now let us assign the workflow to an agent. Click edit. Select the large Excel data processing and assign it to the agent. Make sure your agent is running. Let's go to the catalog. Let us submit the request for large Excel data processing. Note the request ID. Let us go to the requests. You can see that the execution has started. It displays total salary of the latest record being processed as the status. Notice it displays the successful row count and the total row count. It increments in batches of 50,000 as we had set the batch size to display the intermediate status as 50,000. Now all the rows are processed. Acknowledge the manual intervention step. It is writing to the Excel writer step. The workflow execution is complete. You can download the output file. You can view the contents of the file. It has written all the salary calculations in the file. And you can see that it has processed for all the 258,000 employee records. We saw how to configure the intermediate status for long-running workflows. We also saw how to set the manual interventions in a workflow for acknowledgement or intermediate inputs as required by the business process. Thank you for watching.